All right, this is part two of a video series for minimum payment schedules on credit cards. Let's quickly recap what happened in the last video. Okay, we spent $500 with a credit card that had 21% annual interest. This was the monthly growth factor. We figured out how to calculate that. So after a month goes by and we get our first bill, it's no longer a bill for just $500. It's a bill for $508.82. They've added in a little interest, so this is the balance with interest. Now, they don't ask for that whole amount. They only ask for 3% of it, which is $15.26. So after I mail them $15.26, this is where my balance sits at the end of month one. Okay? Now, what happens is that becomes my starting amount for the next month. So if I wanted to continue this out, and we won't in this video, but just in case you need to, I'm going to put $493.56 right here. And then I'm going to run through the same process, the same growth factor. I multiply, I get a new balance with interest, and I get a different minimum payment because the minimum payment is 3% of whatever I owe them. So it's going to be slightly different each month. Then I can continue it on and on and on. Now what I'd like to show you in this video is how to assess these numbers, not in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of percentage, because this is where it's very revealing what's happening. And some of you will be able to see this just by looking at the numbers, and other people will need to actually calculate it to kind of get a sense for what's going on. Now, you could do this, and what you're going to be asked to do in a lot of your analysis is to extend this process right here out for 6 months. Get all the way down to what happens by the end of month 6 of making a minimum payment. But for the purposes of this video, to make it a little shorter, I'm going to show you what you do after month 1. The process is no different, okay? You'll have more stuff to add up, but in this case, I'm going to show you by a percentage what's really going on. So let's first take a look at change in principal. Okay. Now change in principal means how much did my debt go down. Okay, I'm looking to see how much my debt decreased. So what did I start at? Well, I started at 500. And after a month, and you could do this after 6 months, you could see where you're at, but right now I'll just do it after 1 month. After 1 month, I'm down to $493.56. So my debt went down a whopping $6.44. Okay, that's how much my principal changed after just 1 month. Now let's take a look at what happened in terms of the perspective of the lender. How much money did I actually send to the bank that owns this credit card? Okay. Well, let's look at it. In this case, I only sent one payment, and it's $15.26. Now, for you, you may have 5 or 6 months of this in a row, so you're going to have to add up all of these payments together to see how much money you actually mailed in from your checking account. But in this case, I only had one payment that I mailed in, so this is pretty easy. I add all those up, and I get $15.26. Now, none of these amounts are huge, so it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But I want to compare these. Okay? I want to know what profit the lender made. And you notice, I sent them $15 and some change, but my debt only went down about $6.50. There's a missing amount of money there. Okay? I sent them 15 plus, and my debt only goes down a little over $6. That just doesn't seem right. Okay? So where did that missing amount of money go? Well, that's what they pocket for their profit, because remember, you chose to borrow the money from them. And so they get to make the rules on how much money you have to pay back. They're going to make some profit because you are borrowing their $500 to make your purchase. So to find the lender profit, I'm going to take $15.26, which is what I sent them, and I'm going to subtract my change in principal, which was $6.44, and they made a profit of $8.82. Okay. Now, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, $8, big deal, but remember, this is only for 1 month. You weren't even close to paying this card off. And these banks have, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of customers. Now, $8.82 doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but let's take a look at it as a percentage. Okay? If they made $8.82 and I sent them $15.26, I'm going to divide those and multiply by 100 to turn into a percentage. This tells me how much of what I send them is going towards their profit and how much is going towards my debt. And this ends up being about a 57.8% profit margin. So to put this into perspective, every $10 I send them, about $5.80 immediately goes to their pocket. The other $4.20 goes to pay off my debt. more than half is actually going into their pocket as a profit and has nothing to do with paying down your debt. So that's what we mean by lender profit. This is how you calculate it as a percentage. Take how much money they made, that difference, that missing amount here that wasn't there, okay, that all of a sudden just disappeared, and divide that by what you sent them, and you can turn it into a percentage. Okay, and if we do this, it doesn't matter how big the purchase is or how small the purchase is. That percentage right there tells you their profit margin. It tells you what's really happening to the money you send them.